Good afternoon and warm welcome everybody to the October edition of PHEMS Project's Meetup series. My name is Pekka Kahri. I'm the project coordinator for PHEMS, working in the Helsinki University Hospital. Greetings from Helsinki, where it's already getting a bit autumn and we got our first night frosts, but it's an excellent time to stop and participate in our fall edition meetups. This is the second meetup of this season. We had one in September about strategies for success from 3 hospitals on their perspectives and in joining a data space that we are creating. Today we have a topic on synthetic data. In November, where there will be an update on what's the progress in a clinical benchmarking use case that we have in our project. And in the December edition, we have young patients' involvement in health data decisions. So do also mark these future meetups to your calendar and warm welcome. They are always the first Tuesday of the month at 3 o'clock Central European Time. Just a quick recap. What is PHEMS project all about? Why did we start it? So in pediatrics, there is an urgent need for enabling better cross-border data collaboration. The reason for that is that in pediatric patients are often small in numbers, they are complex, they are rare diseases, so there's a limited ability to conduct research, develop new therapies and improve patient outcomes based on any single center's data. So we need to go cross-border and be able to collaborate between nation states. Also for children, often new expensive therapies are introduced and accumulation of real-world evidence on those therapies, whether they are of real effectiveness in real-world environments, accumulates too slowly. And by combining data sources in different countries, we could more rapidly generate evidence on how therapies work or if certain patient groups don't benefit from them at all. In any data-hungry application like AI or machine learning algorithm development, we need to tap into broader data sources than individual hospitals or data holders can host, and therefore we need, again, cross-border collaboration. And then especially in the most specialized pediatric healthcare, benchmarking or quality and outcomes improvement by collaboration between hospitals may become difficult since many countries might have just 1 or 2 specialized children's hospitals. So getting benchmarking partners to compare and develop better outcomes, you need to go cross borders. And that's why we launched a PHEMS project. PHEMS is Horizon Europe funded a project including 14 partners with a total funding of 7 million euros, both from Horizon Europe and the UK Research and Innovation Agency. We are 2/3 complete, so we have 1 year to go and have hospitals and universities involved and technical and business partners. The project is coordinated by Helsinki University Hospital. Other hospitals involved are Great Ormond Street Hospital for Children in London, Erasmus Sophia Children's Hospital in Rotterdam, Barcelona Sant Joan de Déu Children's Hospital, Riga Latvian Children's University Hospital, and Mayer Children's Hospital in Florence, Italy. For technical and business partners, the consortium includes Tietoevry and Aridia, who are IT providers, Genesis Biomed, consultant supporting our project in business model and sustainability topics, the Hive that is specialized in data harmonization, and then VEIL.AI, who is specialized in privacy enhancing technologies. And our speaker of today comes from VEIL.AI. Happy to introduce Max Salmi, our speaker of today. Max is the Chief Product Officer at VEIL.AI, has a degree in mathematics and computer science from University of Helsinki, and has an extensive experience in working with sensitive data, both in the genomic field and clinical data management. And Max will be talking today about synthetic data and its applications in clinical settings. Max, I will give the floor to you, and you may share the slides from your computer.
Thank you, Pekka, for your kind introduction. I hope you can see my screen now.
Perfectly.
Great. So yeah, application of anonymous synthetic data in clinical settings. Quite a long title, but let's dive in and see what we are speaking then today. So maybe this comes from my background, but I will start with the definitions. That what kind of different privacy levels or categories one can consider when talking about data, and more specifically health data. Then I'm describing some potential applications of anonymous synthetic data, and then looking more in detail what that would in practice mean in clinical settings. Then I'm sort of coming back to the definitions because there are some hard questions when thinking of these different applications. Then briefly what we do in PHEMS, a bit what Pekka already mentioned to you, and then summing up and maybe some take-home messages for you all to think about. There might be some topics that you might disagree. That's wonderful. So it's a good to debate these things then in the Q&A session and have a discussion if people have different views and whether there are some challenges in this topic in general. But yeah, maybe I'll start going then further. So let's look at the different categories of data with regards to privacy. So if we start from the left-hand side, we have the original raw data that accumulates in the data controller's positions, such as the PHEMS hospitals here. So there are children hospitals who accumulate data on daily basis, and its main use is the primary care of the patients. Okay, pretty clear. And the GDPR certainly applies, and the data usage and access is very restricted. Then we take one step right. We have the guy with the sunglasses, and this is the pseudonymized data. What it means is that the direct identifiers have been removed or replaced with hashes, so that it is not, the persons are not anymore directly identifiable. So social security numbers have been removed, names have been removed, addresses, and so on. And this is what people typically in the research field use when they are conducting research studies and projects. Many countries have, and hospitals or data controllers have their processes, how they become available, these pseudonymous data for research processes. And of course, now with the upcoming changes in the legislation, this hopefully streamlines across the Europe, namely with EHDS. But also the pseudonymized data is under GDPR because it is still identifying data, even though the direct identifiers are removed. Okay, so this is the restricted red area, so to speak. And then we move to the green area. First, I have set here the anonymized data. So here it means that the anonymization techniques have been applied that also take account the non-direct identifiers. So you cannot not directly and non-directly identify the persons anymore. And now this is something what GDPR talks also about. So when data becomes anonymous, then it is suited for secondary use because it's non-personal. And then lastly, we have the topic of today. So anonymous synthetic data. So we have some technique or process to produce data that is synthetic and anonymous, and for certainly is non-personal, so from GDPR perspective free to use in secondary use cases. And how I define this, that this is statistical data that is based on a real data, and the statistical properties mimic on a population level. But as you can see, the forehead is a bit off. It seems that the person has been constructed from different pieces. So these 4 categories I like to present to you, and please think if you have a different view. What I have learned while working in this particular field is that the terminology is a jungle. So there are terms like de-identified. I have also heard term pseudo-anonymized. So there are many terms, and sometimes it might be a bit unclear that what each of these terms mean. So I hope this at least sets the scene for today and for today's presentation. So, but yeah, today we are mostly focusing on the rightmost data that we have there. And let's look at that data then even a bit more closely. So what it means that data is anonymous? Well, we have the GDPR that speaks something about it. So whether one has a reasonable means to re-identify persons from that data. If that cannot be done by reasonable efforts, then the data is considered anonymous. Well, this is very broadly said and vaguely said from a mathematician's perspective. So also I like to have maybe some areas which try to represent the different kind of data privacy classes or categories. Now there are, if we look from the right hand side, we have a circle that contains the synthetization area. So that's the synthetic data. So there are various ways, techniques, protocols, transformations that allow you to produce or generate synthetic data. Great. Then we have the term anonymization. So there are other techniques, ways, transformations that allow you to produce anonymization and thus anonymous data. Now these methods are overlapping. It's a debate when some technique is called anonymization and when it's actually synthetic data generation. So now we are getting into the area where things are easily mixed and people are out talking with different words about the same topic or with same words about different topic. But here I want to emphasize the overlapping area, which is the anonymous synthetic data, where the data is both anonymous and synthetic. Now it's good to understand that not all synthetization methods or transformations that they would be inherently safe. So it doesn't mean that if you have a synthetic data generation method that it would automatically generate you safe data from privacy protection perspective. And also good to understand that there is data in the world that is by nature anonymous. So of course there's data that cannot identify anybody, even though it originates from some person. So let's say a naive example, the number of cells in a given person probably is not an identifying number. So could be shared and wouldn't need any anonymization or synthetization technique to be applied. So important when we are talking about synthetic data generation or producing synthetic data is to also validate that does this method that we use to generate synthetic data, does it actually produce anonymous synthetic data? So in use, is there a potential risk that individuals whose data has been used in the generation process could be somehow linked back or the identities leaked. So of course this is even from now in PHEMS scope we are dealing with pediatric data, and typically the children have even a special case in the legislation, so that it is extremely important that the data is protected in the best possible manner for the secondary use of this data. All right, but maybe this is enough from the definitions perspective. I will return to these later on when we come to the hard questions that I feel that are present in this field. So now we'll dive in to the different applications. And now I firstly present just sort of ideas or potential applications where you could use anonymous synthetic data. The first one is that when you would like to reuse your data internally. So you are in possession of your data, so you're a data controller. And you have the idea that, hey, it could be really nice if we could use our data for secondary purposes. And you might have some ideas that, yeah, let's do this. And here are some examples. You could use it for research and development. Sounds pretty feasible. Maybe we need anonymous synthetic data for that. Okay, let's think about that. Okay, internally we are doing something with the AI and ML tools. Yeah, maybe we could use anonymous synthetic data for that as well. Okay, we happen to be a hospital and we are doing care delivery. Maybe we could use anonymous synthetic data for that as well. So there are probably many more applications or use cases. Maybe you in the audience can also think of if you come up with other examples for the Q&A session. But these are some that I want to highlight. And you see the the orange circles around the R&D and AI tools, so I will dive into those deeper then a bit later on. All right, the second part is, okay, again, we have data in our possession and we would like to utilize this data with external use cases. Something what Pekka already mentioned regarding the PHEMS. So you might want to collaborate with external partners, with one partner. This is now the distinction between the second topic. So data for external collaboration. So you have some partners that you need to collaborate with or you want to collaborate with. Then there are these data collaboration cross-border use cases, like PHEMS, what Pekka mentioned. So there is some need that drives to work together with multiple data controller sites, organizations, cross-border, and then you have, for some reason, you need to have a data from multiple places. Then you could also consider that, okay, should we build some data products that we could offer externally, and how that could help external organization stakeholders or benefit ourselves. So these are mostly now from the data controller perspective. So they have the data and they're thinking that how these could be beneficial for some secondary use. So then it's the internal secondary use and then external secondary use. And then the last class or setup that I have in mind is when some other organization seeks access to data to do something with it. So somewhere there is a data controller that has valuable data, and me being the organization, I'm like, okay, I have the need that I would like to use that data for something. And now there are these real world evidence cases and maybe the big hype at the moment. So how to bring data for AI. So there could be some commercial drivers why I would want to know and learn about certain data. It could help me to plan my market access in some cases. I want to maybe do some retrospective studies. So because there's lots of data, for example, in the hospital, in the registries, this could reveal something. So what has happened to the safety? What kind of outcomes there have been in certain circumstances? And also then quite specifically towards the pharma, the data in some hospital or registries could be actually suitable for constructing an external/synthetic control arm for clinical trials. And then, of course, like I said, the hype of today, there are bunch of organizations who are planning and developing AI models, and they want to train their models to be better at their tasks, what they are doing. So there's a huge demand of data for AI ML training purposes and development purposes. And here, of course, there are the new, rather new EU AI Act that also sets some regulatory framework over this, that what kind of privacy controls you should take into account when preparing data for AI ML purposes. Probably many of you have read from the news every now and then that the AI models have leaked sensitive data when they have been used, or some certain scenarios, prompts have been used or repeated that have forced, so to speak, the models to reveal some sensitive data that has been used in their training. And of course, this is something that you don't want to face when you are dealing with health data, and more specifically with the pediatric health data. So let's look a bit more in detail and the internal cases and the external cases. And let's think about those that, okay, we want to share this externally. We have some external collaboration. So you want to work with your vendors. It might become very much easier if you can give a glimpse of your data for your vendors to work with. You might be able to tap into some app ecosystems, and the app ecosystem developers are going to make it more easier for them if they can work with you and your data, and not just with some completely dummy data. And of course, you can use it to provide it for their testing and research and development purposes. So this is how you could help your vendors or suppliers, if you are a data controller, to provide integrations or apps or applications more rapidly with better quality. Now it's a good to consider, is a anonymous synthetic data best for this? Maybe. Maybe you can think also what that would some other privacy class data be better for this purpose, because I think quite often people are, yeah, we want to have the real data. That's the golden thing that everybody wants to have, but unfortunately in practice that is not possible. Then there are these data collaboration initiatives cross-border, like PHEMS. So an ability to collect more data, combine it, benchmark. So like Pekka said, when the data of single institution is not enough, and you might not have those institutions like one or maybe two in a given nation, then you have to go cross-border if you want to do meaningful research and benchmarking. So of course, benchmarking makes more sense also when you are working cross-border, to understand how different treatments and processes work in different countries and whether you could improve based on that. Then you could also consider building data products. You could have it for educational purposes, whether you are training your personnel or you want to provide it for medical students or something like that. You could build case libraries that are available, or even availability service. So availability service meaning that you have a data catalog, could be another word that you might associate it with, is that you are able to tell that, okay, this kind of data we have if you would like to collaborate with us. So it is, what I've understood, is often quite cumbersome to learn what kind of data controllers actually have in their possession, and could I somehow use them, and what are the possibilities. So these could be some potentially very good use cases for anonymous synthetic data. Maybe some are more suitable than others. At least I personally feel that the data products, for example, with the availability service, could be an excellent opportunity for anonymous synthetic data, because there it probably doesn't matter that much the sort of exactness and the fine details, but you are more looking into an initial view and understanding on a bigger scale. Okay, then let's go into the internal cases. So research and development. If you are doing research and development internally, you could use your existing data to early validate your ideas, also to just understand that what are you trying to build and solve, and of course use this data for internal development testing. Quite often we come across the challenge that there are development teams that they know that they have production data in their organization, but they cannot use it in any ways because it's so restricted, and it creates a huge challenge, because they then sort of have to guess what the new developments need to work with. So I think this could also potentially be very good use case for the anonymous synthetic data. And then, of course, many companies and organizations are nowadays working with different AI tools. So you might want to train or fine-tune your AI models. You want to test them. You want to maybe utilize it for Gen AI. So let's say that you have sensitive documents and you would like to understand them briefly, asking from your ChatGPT friend or some other Gen AI model that, okay, what should I know about this long document, which is hundreds of pages, but you don't dare to give the document because it's sensitive to a large language model, and you would rather have maybe an anonymous synthetic data or some other class of privacy protection on that data first before you give it a large language model. So these are some maybe more to the clinical setting side, and I feel that in some cases the synthetic data, anonymous synthetic data, is very suitable, like the availability service or for the R&D purposes and testing purposes. Then when we come to cross-institution networks like PHEMS, I think it's a good thing to debate that when you start to combine data, that how much are we interested about the details and how much are we interested about the population? So where does the where do you want to look at? What's your level you want to examine and explore? So I think that's very essential when you're thinking that is anonymous synthetic data suitable for my use case. Then if we look at the external organization, what they are looking for. Okay, so I would like to train an AI model. So I would like to have the data from someone else. Great, I would like to test how my model performs. I would like to fine tune them. Pretty much what we had in the previous slide, but now it's some other organization who wants to do it, and they would like to have this data from data controllers. Here, I think synthetic anonymous data would be quite good. There are studies where the AI model has been trained with the real data, and also then in comparison with a synthetic data, and the sort of prediction capabilities are analyzed, and you can get into similar performance levels with the anonymous synthetic data as you would get with the real data. So the AI ML use could very probably benefit a lot if you can harness sort of the anonymous synthetic data and find the ways to give access to partners when they train or test their models. And then there was lastly this external/synthetic control arm for the pharma. So could I actually build a synthetic control arm for my clinical trial from hospital data and maybe combine it with other registry data? Here is, I think the question below becomes then very essential, that is this the correct privacy class? Do I want to only look at the population level, or am I maybe more interested also about the details of single individuals? VEIL.AI, we have had all of these cases that I highlighted here. This is something where we have been working with, and this question is, I feel, very important, that when do we want to use anonymous synthetic data? When is it actually in practice something that we can use, or are we actually looking for some other privacy class that we would like to use? And that's why I want to to the definition. So this is my own thinking, so feel free to disagree. Maybe you have your own rule of thumbs. I would love to hear them. So when I think of this situation, that when would anonymous synthetic data be suitable for me? Now, okay, when would it not be suitable? If I start from the left. So if my use case is about single individuals and their details, and if they need to be as correct as possible, then I feel that the use of anonymous synthetic data makes my case harder, because what we said, that the anonymous synthetic data is describing population level characteristics and features, then I cannot know and I cannot be sure that what happens then with the individuals. What's the fuzziness, as you maybe can look from the picture on the right, that does it matter that the forehead is a bit off? Is this okay? So if I would like to see a solid person, then I may be more interested, let's say, about the pseudonymized data, or maybe about the anonymized data. If I'm interested about single individuals and their details, and they cannot be too much off, because in synthetic data and in anonymous synthetic data, you are looking more on a statistical level, on a population level, that they fulfill what the real data also represents on a population or cohort level. Okay, then if we look at the sort of green thumbs up thing, so when the anonymous synthetic data works for me. So when I'm not so interested about the exact details of these individuals, so I'm doing software development and I need test data. So my purpose is to make sure that the application works, but I don't really care in the tests that whether these persons are maybe that exactly sort of correct from healthcare domain perspective. I just want to have a bunch of them to see that the application can still run when it's dealing with tens of thousands of patients, for example. Or like the data catalog that I mentioned. Maybe it's just the importance to tell that we have roughly a cohort size of X. So there is this much of this data, and it has this kind of characteristics. And then my collaboration partner could easily have the good first-hand feeling that, yeah, okay, this seems to be very promising, or it could be an easy judgment. Okay, that's not enough. I'm looking like magnitudes more, or you are missing completely certain characteristics or features from your data. This is not suitable. So it could be very useful for early validation. But in those kind of use cases, you are not really looking into single individuals. So these are my personal rule of thumbs to think when would anonymous synthetic data work. So it's very much dependent on the further use or downstream use that you would like to conduct. Okay, then if I briefly speak about VEIL.AI and why we are in PHEMS, Pekka already enlightened you a bit, but our aim is to be able to provide high quality, individual level, anonymized, unanonymous synthetic data for the secondary use of PHEMS. So the use cases of PHEMS, there are 3 use cases. I won't go into them in detail, but the idea is, of course, that we want to enhance the privacy protection when dealing with the pediatric data and see that can the novel research and use cases work with the same quality as it would happen from the original data. So this is the big thing that we want to say, that yeah, you could basically draw the same conclusions from the high quality anonymous data as from the original. If this is true, that's something we are researching in PHEMS, and I strongly believe that that can happen, then we will greatly increase the data protection, but we will not cut anything from the innovation perspective. So this is something why we are interested in PHEMS and very glad to be working with all the institutions and data controllers in this EU project. Here, if you want to know more about us, feel free to visit our website or scan the QR code later on. But maybe then I'm going towards the end of the presentation, and maybe some take-home messages that you might consider. So at least for me, when I jumped into this area and business, I felt that the terminology is a challenge. So lots of different words, different meanings, how people interpret them. Legislation being quite vague, being in constant change at the moment. So I think there we should be really careful. Also, now that maybe a bit more positive thing, that yeah, I truly see that there are numerous applications for anonymous synthetic data and anonymous data in general. But you have to be careful and mindful that what is actually the data that you are looking for, and is it suitable for your use case. So quite often people might come that, yes, we want to have synthetic data, and then when you talk with them for half an hour, you come into conclusion that, oh, really, we actually want something else, because the anonymous synthetic data might not be the optimal, because you are maybe the use case is more individual level than a populational level. Or you might start from, yeah, we want to do a research project so that we get pseudonymized data, but then in the end of the day you realize that, hey, actually we are just working on the population level and we are doing in a big picture, so we actually this anonymous synthetic data is just fine for us, and we don't have to go through tedious processes to get access to pseudonymized data. So with these 3 take-home messages and summaries, I would like to thank you for listening in, and this is then how the PHEMS things continue in the first Tuesdays of every month. But thank you, everybody, and Pekka, I'll give the floor to you back.
Thank you, Max.